Am I the a-hole for forcing my parents to keep disowning my half-brother? My parents never got along with me, 21 male. They clearly favored my half-brother Junior, 23 male. My dad was especially harsh since I wasn't what he considered an ideal son. My grandparents started a fairly successful small HVAC business in our area, and my father has a job there but no real power, with the actual business ownership belonging to a trust. My grandfather didn't trust my father with financial decisions. 3 years ago, my dad found some old diaries my mom had, and in them, she detailed an affair that went on until the affair partner died 12 years ago in a car wreck. They argued for days, precisely because the trust that owns the business will be going to only biological grandchildren. My grandfather hated my mom and suspected her of fooling around. My parents agreed to reconcile if Junior and I took DNA tests. Both Junior and my dad were sure I would not biologically be related, and they would get to kick the bastard out. Well, 3 years ago we went to the lab, went to a lawyer's office, and the tests came in. I was my father's son. Junior was not. What's more is the house we live in was also to go to only biological grandchildren, and my birthday was coming up. My father was subdued on the drive home, but Junior was still mouthy. My father, to his credit, tried to mend fences that night. He looked awful. He cried. He begged for forgiveness. He asked what he could do to start making things up. I said, kick the bastard out. My parents begged, pleaded for me to try anything but that. Set up family counseling, get us fixed. I wouldn't budge. I pointed out they were fully ready to kick me out that night if I wasn't my father's son. My father kicked Junior out that night, but he was doing it full of tears. I must confess, my relationship with my parents did not get better. My father acts like a broken man, and my mother is just silent. Honestly, they should have divorced long ago, but they don't argue anymore. I started working at the family business, going to college on the side. My parents are outright timid around me now. My father would try to spend time with me, but I brush him off. Lately, they would both ask if I was willing to have the three of us contact Junior and have all of us mend fences. I keep refusing and ask, if it was me, would you even be asking? My mentor at my grandfather's business knows the situation and has asked me if I'm doing this because I want to hurt them or if I want to avoid being hurt. Now for the top comments. Your mentor is wise, not the a-hole for feeling how you feel. Think about what your mentor is asking. Is the decision to keep Junior out of the family helping you feel any better? Do you think bringing him back into the fold will change how your parents view you or feel about him? There's much to consider. I wish you well. Sounds to me like Grandpa knew exactly what was going to happen and cut dear old Dad and Junior off at the knees. Not the a-hole, but I think you're going about it the wrong way. There should be no credit to your father. The only reason he tried to rebuild a relationship with you right away is because he found out you are their meal ticket. I can't even imagine the heartache you must have grown up with what that car ride to the clinic before you knew the truth must have felt like. The fear of thinking you were about to be kicked out of the only family you have known. My advice to you is to get therapy. Accept that your birth family is never going to be what you want them to be. You already grew up and they already messed up your childhood. Figure out what you want for your life and pursue that. Remember, you owe them nothing. The business and the house belong to your grandparents and now you. Put yourself first, since they never bothered to do that for you. Your parents suck, and if you decided to go no contact with them, that would be 100% justified. You're right, when they were talking about throwing the bastard out, they were definitely talking about you, if you turned out to not be their biological child. Quite frankly, after the DNA test, that should have been the moment that you decided to cut them off and go on with your life. In the future, since you were still young and not to the position to move out just yet. I can even see why you were feeling vindictive at a time and demanded that they do to your brother what you knew they were going to do to you. Maybe a part of you thought that your relationship would get better if he weren't around. However, it's been 3 years since then, and you can see that it hasn't. There is really no reason for you to still be demanding that they cut off your brother because it hasn't changed anything. You don't even want a relationship with them because when they try, you brush them off. So at this point, you're just forcing them to keep your brother away for revenge. Like your mentor said, are you doing this to hurt them or to keep yourself from being hurt? Because regardless, you're receiving both outcomes. You don't have a good relationship with your parents, even without him, and they're hurting. It's not like Junior not being around has improved your life or your connection with your parents. It seems like things have just largely remained the same between you three, besides your parents' marriage being in shambles. Really sit down and ask yourself, what do I want from my parents? It could be an apology, it could be a fresh start, it could be them truly owning up to how poorly they treated you. It could be them completely exiting your life for more, but truly ask yourself that. Then think about if your demands make sense to you afterwards. I just truly don't understand the point in having leverage over your parents and using it to not improve your relationship and to just keep things the way that they were. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not going out to eat to celebrate my brother's wedding when I wasn't even invited to his wedding? I'm 19 male. My brother got married exactly 16 days ago, but I wasn't invited because of my age. His wife decided it would be inappropriate to have anyone under 21 at their wedding, since they would be serving alcohol and didn't want any minors to get drunk at their wedding. I thought this was a BS excuse, but that's what they told me, and that's what they're sticking to. I was 18 when they told me, and I was kind of hurt by this, because I didn't see why I had to be uninvited. It's not like I have an alcohol addiction. I drink sometimes, but that's a rarity. I asked them to reconsider a couple of times, and they refused every time. I could tell they were getting aggravated after a while, so I just stopped complaining and stopped caring about their wedding in general. Last Saturday, my brother wanted everyone in our family to go out and eat with him to celebrate their wedding. I refused to go. When asked why, I gave everyone the same answer. I didn't see the need to celebrate something I wasn't even invited to. At the time, my parents didn't say much and kind of respected my decision, until my brother and his wife got upset at dinner when they realized I wasn't there. I had already told them I wasn't going to go, so I have no idea why they expected me to show up. After the dinner, my brother and his wife both texted me, saying they were upset that I couldn't spare some time so the whole family could be there to celebrate with them. My parents are trying to remain neutral, but I think they believe I'm wrong. They told me they see why I didn't go, but that it wouldn't have hurt me to go and celebrate with my brother, especially since I wasn't the only one not invited on our side. They were referring to my cousins, 13 female and 15 male. They did go to the dinner, but they didn't really have a choice in whether they wanted to or not. I also wasn't the only one who didn't attend. I just don't think they think my reasons weren't valid enough. Sorry, I understood the celebration was for family, and I am apparently too young to be included in your family. Besides, the restaurant served alcohol, and of course you can't possibly allow a minor in a place that serves alcohol, lest I completely lose control and drink myself silly, as I have never done in my life even without your supervision. Not the a-hole. Lol, this should be the reply. They serve alcohol, and out of respect for your wife and her concerns of a 19-year-old drinking, I felt it best I don't come. Turn it back on them. And in the future, don't let them drop their spawn on him to babysit because he is family. Sorry, I can't babysit. I've got alcohol in my house and your children are younger than 21. You know how it is. Not a-hole. It was rude, hurtful, and silly of them to not invite you. I also think it's kind of ridiculous that they had a follow-up dinner to celebrate their wedding and demanded everybody to attend. Who does that? Their actual wedding and reception weren't enough? I feel like they need to be the center of attention all the time. Are your brother or sister-in-laws very jealous and competitive with you? Their behavior is so weird. My relationship with my brother was just normal. We weren't exactly best friends growing up, but I would go to him with a lot of my problems, and he always listened. He made effort to show up for my important events, and took me out when I was younger, so we were close in that way. I think he's still mad at me though, so I'm not sure about that now. Our age gap definitely played a role in how close we were. As for his fiancée, our relationship is also normal, I guess. We do not talk much, but it's not that awkward or anything. When she's around, we can hold a conversation, but we don't go out of our way to reach out to each other. Next story. Am I the a-hole for uninviting my adoptive brothers from my wedding after they said they don't see me as family? I'm a 32-year-old man and I'm getting married to my longtime girlfriend soon. What should be one of the happiest moments of my life has turned into a heartbreaking ordeal because of the deepening rift in my family. To give you some background, I'm my parents' biological son, and when I was 12, they adopted 2 boys who were biological siblings. Jack, who was 8, and Liam, who was 5. From the very beginning, it was clear that things were going to be tough. Jack came with severe behavioral issues due to some intense trauma. I'll spare the details, but it was significant. I tried my hardest to be understanding, but living with him was nothing short of exhausting. His outbursts were constant, and I often felt like I was walking in eggshells, terrified of setting him off. As we grew older, I continued to try to be there for Jack, despite everything. A few years ago, Jack fell into a devastating drug addiction. I stood by him through his darkest moments, supporting him through rehab and doing everything I could to help him get back on his feet. It was draining and heartbreaking, but I did it because I loved him and believed that despite our challenges, we were still brothers. Liam, on the other hand, was always easier to get along with, and I formed a closer bond with him. But even so, I always felt like an outsider. Jack and Liam's bond as biological siblings was undeniable, and I never quite felt like I was truly a part of it. It was like I was always on the edge, looking in, trying to be included but never fully accepted. The situation came to a head recently at a Sunday dinner at my parents' house. My son was working on his summer homework, which involved creating a family tree. He innocently asked Jack if he wanted to be included, and Jack just flat out said no. He didn't want to be a part of it because, in his exact words, we're not real brothers. He said it so casually, like it was the most obvious thing in the world, with no regard for how it would cut me to the core. I was utterly stunned, but what shattered me even more was that Liam, who I've always felt closer to, just sat there in silence. He didn't say a word. He didn't defend me or even acknowledge how hurtful Jack's words were. He just let it happen. I've tried so hard to be supportive of both of them, especially Jack, despite the endless challenges. So for Jack to say that, and for Liam to do nothing, felt like a gut punch. It was as if they were both telling me, in no uncertain terms, that I was never truly part of their family. In my pain and frustration, I decided to uninvite both Jack and Liam for my wedding. My fiancé has been nothing but supportive of my decision, but my parents are furious. They've made it clear that if Jack and Liam aren't invited, they won't attend either. It feels like history is repeating itself, with my parents once again prioritizing Jack over me, no matter how much it hurts me. I'm absolutely heartbroken that my parents would choose to miss my wedding rather than support me in this. I know Jack has been through a lot, but I've done everything I can to be there for him and for Liam, despite all the heartache. And now, I feel like I'm the one being punished for finally standing up for myself and setting some boundaries. Am I the a-hole for uninviting my brothers after they said they don't see me as family, even if it means my parents won't come to my wedding? Now for the top comments. Jack is being an a-hole. Your parents are following suit. Just tell them you are having an a-hole-free wedding because you are only inviting people who care about you and your fiancé, not the a-hole. A-hole-free wedding. I like that. Not the a-hole. You are absolutely not the a-hole here. Your brother's actions, especially Jack's blatant disregard for your feelings, were incredibly hurtful. You have the right to set boundaries and decide who you want at your wedding, especially when those people don't consider you family. I'm also so confused by the logic. If OP isn't Jack's brother, then OP's parents are not his parents either. Like, how are they not hurt as well? I think in their minds, OP is not related to the brothers or the parents. When the parents adopted the two boys, they emotionally unadopted their bio son. Damn, that's just wild. But also apparently reinforced by OP's parenting practices. Oof, sorry OP. Not the a-hole. Of course you only want family and friends there to celebrate your joy. If Jack, or Liam, doesn't identify as either of those things, then why would he be invited? Congratulations on the wedding. Hope you have a fantastic time without all that baggage. Last story. Am I the a-hole for exploding at my family after they made my mother the center of attention at my wife's baby shower as a prank? My mom and I have been no contact since my wedding a year and a half ago. It is a sad situation, but my wife is my priority, and my mom detests her. There is no path forward. My wife is currently pregnant and her family hosted a beautiful baby shower. It was on my mom's birthday, but I didn't think anything of it as it wasn't like she would attend anyway. My wife has been trying to keep up contact with the rest of my family so that I have some family support. And so my mom knows she didn't win, so everyone was invited except my mom. The day of the shower, my aunt showed up with my mom blindfolded. My mom went along as she thought it was a surprise party for her birthday, and then when she opened her eyes, they were like, "Surprise, you are going to have a grandson." My mom immediately told them to F off and left, but everyone was looking. My wife was mortified. My mom's husband had asked them to distract her because he was getting her surprise ready, and I guess they thought that was a prank. I immediately reached out to the family to find out what the heck happened. My mom has kind of a dark sense of humor, and I guess they really thought she would find that funny, but she didn't, and her husband tore them new a-holes. I admit I lost it. I called them all evil people and said if I saw any of them again, I'd get a restraining order. I said they proved they think my son's existence is a joke, so no one needs to meet him. Not the a-hole. Your reaction was completely justified given the situation. What your aunts did was incredibly inappropriate and disrespectful, not just to your mom but especially to your wife, and the occasion meant to celebrate your soon-to-arrive child. The fact that they thought it was funny to bring your mom, who is clearly not on good terms with your wife, to the baby shower was a massive overstep and showed a complete lack of consideration for everyone involved. You were right to stand up for your wife and your future son. This wasn't just a harmless prank, it was a cruel and thoughtless act that disrupted a significant moment for your family. Your strong reaction sent a clear message that you won't tolerate this kind of behavior, especially when it involves your child. Setting boundaries with people who think this kind of behavior is okay is crucial for protecting your family's well-being. You're not in the wrong for wanting to keep your family safe from further emotional harm, and if that means cutting ties with those who don't respect you, your wife, or your future child, then so be it. Obviously not the a-hole, but I've got to say, it makes me so happy to see more and more people standing up to their family. I hate the stupid, but they're family, or you can't pick your family, or blood is thicker than water BS. If someone in your life is toxic, cut them out regardless of who they are. Not the a-hole. First, as a father of two, I applaud your reaction. Your family deserves to be left out of your lives for their behavior. Second, while I know your wife probably means well, I would take the time to talk about letting you manage to contact with them. They obviously don't respect her, and it's unlikely they ever will. She also needs to remember that she only has a few years of experience with them while you have an entire lifetime. You are the expert, and it would probably be a lot less stressful for her, especially while pregnant, to let you manage the relationship entirely going forward. I speak from a voice of experience here. My wife also pushed me to stay in contact with my family. It almost cost my marriage at one point. You're already standing up to them, but now you need to get her to accept that you might understand them better than she does. Update. My 32 male wife's 30 female friend cheated on her fiancé at her bachelorette party. My wife doesn't think it's that big of a deal. Help? Original post. A few weeks ago, my wife went to Miami for one of her best friend's bachelorette parties. After she got back, I overheard a conversation between my wife and another one of her friends who was also at the bachelorette party. Long story short, the bride-to-be cheated on her fiancé while she was there. She met a guy at a club, took him back to her hotel room, and they had sex. I was shocked. To me, this was a big deal. The wedding is in a few weeks. But my wife didn't think it was that big of a deal. She said the bride shouldn't have done it, but it was just sex, with a guy she'd never see again. Just one last fling before her friend settled down. Nothing to call off a wedding for. I could not believe what I was hearing, and my thoughts immediately turned to my wife's own bachelorette party. She went to Vegas for the weekend with the same group. If she didn't think it was a big deal, did she hook up with someone while she was there? She swore on the life of our daughter that she didn't. She admitted to dancing and flirting, but nothing more. This led to a larger conversation about her thoughts on emotionless sex. Another shocker was that she admitted that if I were the type of guy who would be okay with her sleeping with other guys, she would probably do it. She knows I wouldn't be okay with it, so she has never brought it up. She again said that sex isn't love and that she has always been able to sleep with men and not get attached. Her friend thinks the same way.
Now, I'm not thinking about divorce, but I feel like my entire world has been turned upside down. What does everyone think? Edit, I wanted to add one more thing that gives a little more insight into her thinking. She mentioned that if I had an affair that was purely physical, she would be able to forgive me. But if it was emotional, then it would be over. I'm the complete opposite. If my wife had an emotional affair, I'd see this as something I could fix. I don't know if that's just a guy thing or not. Now for the top advice before reading the update. My friend banged a guy. Me? Oh, I just danced and flirted. And by the way, I'd be totally up for banging random guys if you're cool with it. OP, please read this comment a few times. That would be enough of a difference in morals for me to heavily consider divorce. And I've been married to my wife for 7 years, and we have a kid. I wouldn't want someone like that raising my children. Same. I don't think I could stay if my husband knew his friend cheated on his fiancée weeks before their wedding, and not only didn't think it was a big deal, but claimed the only reason he doesn't cheat on me is because he knows I would mind. I think it would lead me to the assumption that my husband does not fundamentally respect fidelity in marriage/relationships. I think I would consider this viewpoint to be as good as cheating. If it's no big deal, why hide it from her future husband? The argument falls apart right there. That, and OP is gonna come back to the comment section with everyone on Reddit telling him it's pretty obvious his wife has cheated on him at some point. Gonna be a tough Thanksgiving for OP, lol. That's probably because she did the same at her bachelorette party, dude. Ask if she slept with anyone at her bachelorette party. When she says no, ask her why she didn't. She clearly doesn't think it's a wrong thing to do. If she says she didn't sleep with anyone out of loyalty to you, ask her why it doesn't apply here. Now for the update. Anyway, many of you told me to tell the fiancé. I debated it, but another one of my wife's friends, call her Claire, who was also at the bachelorette weekend, beat me to it. The whole scene was quite dramatic from what I heard. My wife and Claire were at the house of the friend who cheated. Call her Wendy. When the fiancé came into the room, Claire said to Wendy that she needed to tell him now, or she would. The fiancé pretty much knew what she meant, and basically broke down. There was a lot of screaming and crying. The fiancé took it really hard, and as of now, the wedding is off. My wife looked shaken when she came home. She ended up apologizing for making light of the situation, given how much pain it caused the fiancé. I told her, no kidding, and she admitted that her views on this were obviously much different than most people's. She gave me a hug and said she would never be able to live with herself if she hurt me like that. As for what happened at her bachelorette party, Claire was present for my wife's bachelorette as well. Claire and I have also been friends for years. I met my wife through her actually. So it stands to reason that she would have definitely told me if my wife slept with another guy during her bachelorette. So I suppose I'm satisfied for now. Your wife sounds somewhat low empathy, but I suppose if this concrete event of seeing others' significant distress and pain over infidelity taught her some empathy/compassion, that is a good thing. And store this memory in your mind though, as she doesn't have a solid moral compass clearly. The status update is very dramatic, but it doesn't get at the issue of whether OP and his wife have defined cheating and set boundaries in their own marriage. It is doubly important that they do this, since OP's wife doesn't seem to be on the same page as him. Good point, but I will say this is clearly a monogamous relationship, and obviously banging a random dude and lying about it while you're in a monogamous relationship is cheating. So your wife had to have a front row seat and experience firsthand the devastating effects of cheating in order for her to finally understand why cheating is wrong, horrible, and cruel? That's still hella sus. I would never look at my wife the same way again, but if you guys are able to work past it, then all the more power to you. I hate that I agree with the sus part. Did she say she never cheated, or only that she didn't want to hurt you that way? Because if she cheated, she could avoid hurting you by never telling you. I would still have a look at the phone bill and messages. Have a heart-to-heart with Claire too. I agree it looks hella sus. Even if the friend Claire seems like she would out any cheating, it's also been a bit since the wife's own bachelorette party, and they now have a kid. If the wife was faithful or not back then, Everyone is now looking at the family dynamic and keeping quiet about any possible infidelity. Last story. Update. I feel like my husband, 26 male, puts things off until I, 26 female, ends up handling things myself. Original post. My husband and I have had a rocky relationship. It's been 3 years since we got married, and I always hoped it would get a bit easier. I feel like we've tried a lot of different things to improve our relationship, but I often find myself feeling defeated and sad because it seems like nothing will ever change. Right now, we're in the process of moving. I stayed behind to finish things up at our house and is gone ahead to start working. We're literally starting from scratch. I sold everything, including our cars. We need to have a car, so I asked him to buy one and have it ready for us once I'm ready to move. He's met me with so many excuses, and I'm just tired. I'm finally flying to meet him next week and there's still no car. It's been a month. He mentioned to me offhand the other day that he was planning on buying a car once I fly in. But doesn't that defeat the purpose? All I asked was that he had one ready for when I arrived. I really don't want to go car shopping the second I get off the plane. I was excited and hopeful about the move. We talked about how things were going to change, and he seemed so motivated. But now I feel defeated again. I don't even feel angry anymore. What was I expecting? I'm not sure what advice I'm looking for. We get along pretty well when there aren't any big life decisions involved. He's a nice guy. I just don't trust him to take any responsibility in the relationship. I guess, has anyone been in a similar relationship? How did it go? When was it finally enough for you? Is there anything that can change? I'm really interested in starting couples therapy, but I'm afraid of putting effort into something that might not even work. Now for the top advice before reading the update 3 years later. My husband and I have had a rocky relationship. It's been 3 years since we've been married, and I always hoped it would get a bit easier. Hoping things get better almost never works. You said you had taken steps to improve things. Does that include counseling? If so, it is important to note that he has to want things to improve for them to get better. Based on the example behavior you provided, he sounds lazy, and I doubt he wants to improve your relationship. I don't even feel angry anymore. What was I expecting? If you've hit this point, it's probably time to cut your losses and move on. I'm sorry and good luck. Another point to consider is how he is in day-to-day life. Does he help with the chores? Does he take care of the bills? If not, he's most likely just lazy and wants to have a mommy to guide him through all the adult stuff. If not, maybe he has some kind of anxiety about doing big things without your input. Buying a car is a big thing. It should be discussed and agreed on by both parties. Maybe it's simply not a good dynamic and could be resolved by talking or getting some counseling. Hi, thanks for commenting. Everyone has been really helpful so far. There was a time when my husband wouldn't help out with chores or bills. I was cooking, cleaning, and working full-time while he got to play games. I do think he's gotten better, but there are a lot of times I still feel like I do more. I'm trying to be patient. I know people don't change overnight. It's just hard. I think I still have some hurt feelings from that time. Looking at it now, I think I hoped that if I asked him to do something more important, maybe he'd take it more seriously and be excited to contribute. I realize it's a big decision, but I've always been willing to talk about the financials and other details of the purchase. I think I would have really appreciated seeing his effort in taking over this decision. I've talked to him since posting this and we've gone over more details about the purchase, and he's actually made an appointment to start looking for cars. I'm still not 100% sure if it's purely an anxiety thing or if he is just coasting along with me, but I'm planning to organize my thoughts and talk openly about how this has made me feel once we're together. Thanks again. I've been thinking a lot about the situation. I appreciate it. My husband was bipolar and didn't take meds and was exactly like this. Not only did it start this way, but it got worse even after I had my son. I worked full-time, did all the errands, cleaning, cooking, and cared for my son. You need to put out an ultimatum, and if it tries short-term and then goes back to his old ways, cut and run. And get short-term changes, promises, gaslighting, the works. Listen to your gut, not the hope. Thanks for commenting. Bipolar disorder does run on my husband's side of the family. but I hadn't considered it. Thanks for sharing. I hope things are going well for you now. Now for the update. Hi Reddit. I made a post 3 years ago about my husband not taking the initiative when it came to purchasing a new car after a big move. My post didn't get too big, but I've always liked seeing updates, and a lot has changed in 3 years. So, I decided to log back in and make my own. After making the post, my husband made an appointment to go look at cars. I remember feeling really good about everything at that moment. I felt a huge relief knowing that this big thing was finally getting taken care of. When his appointment came, my husband called me to tell me some good news. He had seen one car, decided it was good, and told me that this was the one we would be buying. While he was still in the dealership, I asked him to tell me the details, like how much the interest was and how much the car cost. I asked him if he had compared it to Kelly Blue Book to see if it was a fair deal. My husband was kind enough to ask the salesman everything, but after each question he added, "I'm sorry my wife is making this so difficult." I was pretty hurt and embarrassed by this and told him so, but he said all my questions were frustrating and were slowing down the process of the one thing I had asked him to do. In the end, he decided to wait for me to arrive so that we could sign for the car together. I ended up getting picked up from the airport and taken straight to the car dealership. We got a good interest rate on a car, but we ended up overpaying by about $7,000. I should have said no to the car and just looked myself, but I was young and embarrassed, and I felt like I wasn't being supportive. Thankfully, that car ended up being our only shared piece of property in our divorce. I didn't trust him to refinance the car, so I ended up taking it. We owed so much more money on that car than it was worth that I couldn't get it refinanced for several months. I ended up trading it, and even though I'm still in the hole financially because of it, I am so much happier now. We did try therapy before ultimately divorcing. My ex-husband was quite the prodigy. He was cured, his words not mine, after a week. He said that he had it all figured out and didn't see the point in continuing. He also told me that he was the only one who had ever put any effort into the relationship and that it was 100% my fault that we were divorcing. He told me that no one would ever love him again if I left, and that he might as well off himself because there was no point in going on. When that didn't work, he said that no one would ever love me again, and that I was lucky he had stayed around as long as he did. He then asked me if I would forge his signature on the divorce documents because I was basically forcing him to do it anyway. I did not. Anyway, I'm happy to report that he was successfully able to move on from the trauma I put him through. He's still around, but I've kept my distance because I can't be bothered, so I'm unsure of what he's up to. I was able to find someone after some time. My boyfriend is so kind. Sometimes I feel like it's too good to be true. Then again, I get Twitter padded when he does simple things like taking out the trash, cooking, or maintaining a full-time job. So the bar is in hell. He's a great guy, and he does more than the bare minimum, I promise. Looking back, I knew that I wanted a divorce. I just wasn't ready to admit it. My ex-husband doesn't love or respect me. I didn't put many details about the relationship in my first post, and I don't really feel the need to put it all out there now. But I know now that if someone truly loves you, they make sure you know. Thanks, Reddit. You were right. Walking out on a marriage and untangling everything is really hard to do. You got married too young. It is amazing that you were able to do it. Enjoy your new life. P.S. The cured prodigy will find another poor woman who will live your same story. I very much hope she spots the red flags before it's too late. I feel like I dated one person and then married someone completely different. It was very surprising. Google weaponized incompetence girl. That reminds me of a post about the bathroom deep clean. The poster had a husband who didn't pull his weight at home or in their relationship. She's been asking him to clean the bathroom for ages, but he just wouldn't, or he'd half-ass it. So for her birthday, she caved and asked for a professional deep clean. She expected him to Google cleaning companies, shop around a bit, get a good deal, make an appointment for the clean, and pay for it. He couldn't do that for some reason. She reminded him, and he said he'd look it up, but never did. On the day of her birthday, he finally Googled it, loudly exclaimed it was ridiculously expensive, and said he'd do it himself to save money. So, he half-asked the cleaning job again. That was the last straw, and she divorced him. Yay you! That line about how nobody else would love you. I'm so glad that you didn't buy it. He must have been desperate to say that. He said a lot of things to try and guilt me into staying. I didn't realize how often he used that against me until separating from him, and it became so obvious. He said it a lot more subtly when we were together.